back. This is the value of a digit part 2. So our math objective for this part is the same as for the first part. We want to be able to recognize that in a multi-digit number, a digit in one place represents 10 times as much as it represents in the place to its right, and 1/10 of what it represents in the place to its left. I want to clarify here before we get back into it. This is true if we're talking about the base 10 number system. And the base 10 number system is the one that we are the most familiar with. It's the one that has 10 digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. As opposed to something like the binary number system that has 2 digits, 0 and 1, or like we've seen with the colors on Tynker, the hexadecimal number system that has 16 digits, 0 through F. So what we're talking about here is true for this number system that has 10 digits. So let's get back into our project. So where we left off with this project, if the user hits the play button, it randomly generates a number and it randomly selects which of these digits is going to be highlighted red. So the next step here is we need to ask the user what's the value of the highlighted digit. So we've got to make sure that we're caught up with part 1 before we start on part 2, of course. And we're going to have one of the actors do the asking here. And remember, we saved this default actor, so if you wanted to, you could use this actor. That's fine. This actor is already equipped with some animation here that you could use if you want. I know I'm not going to use this, so I'm going to throw that away. Or you could add a new actor, and you could use the character builder to add an actor here. You could do that. But my suggestion to you, maybe if you're going to use a new actor, get the new actor up here. But let's save the personalization until the end. Let's get this thing functional first, and then you could go back and you can kind of make whatever adjustments you need to make it your own or make it more interesting and all that stuff. So I'm just going to use this actor that we already have here, and we don't want to do anything really on start. We want to wait until all this other stuff is done. So if we go back up to the stage, remember we broadcast a message to all of these other actors and we're waiting. So the reason we did that is because we want to be sure that all this stuff is done before we move on to the next step. And the next step here is we're going to broadcast another message, and this message is really specifically only for this actor here, and this is so this actor knows it's time to ask the question. So we can just call this something like ask. So we'll type ask in there, and then we can go to this actor and we can get our when I receive event. When I receive ask from the drop down menu there, we're going to have him ask the user what's the value of the red digit. So to ask the user, we need to go to sensing. So we want to find something out from the user, and under user input there's one that says ask, and we'll say ask, and in here we're going to type in what is the value of the red digit, question mark, and then it's going to wait. And the reason it's going to wait is because it needs to know what the user is going to say. So one thing that we're going to have to do, if we don't do it now, I'll have to do it later on. We're going to have to set the type of speech bubble. So we could do that now. So let's go to looks, and under looks we have all the speech bubble stuff. If you scroll down, one says set bubble to rectangular. So we'll click, hold, and drag this over. I think this is fine. I mean, this is what it has by default. I know it's kind of hard to read on the little window here, but if we were to expand this out, we could read it better. It's still a little bit small. We could change this and make it bigger, but then if we're on the little window, it might be hard to see. So you could kind of play around with that, but I'm going to leave it as rectangular for now at least. And so setting the bubble, we're asking the question, and then it says, and it's waiting. So when the user puts something in here, so like let's say the user recognizes, well, we have this 5, and this 5 is in the tens place, so the value of that 5 is 50. They put it 50, they press OK. Well, what happens to that 50 if we go to sensing, we're gonna need that 50 because we're gonna need to check to see if that 50 is the correct answer. So that 50 gets stored to this temporary variable. So if you kind of scroll back to where we found that input to ask, it's stored to this temporary variable called answer. But we want to make this variable more permanent, something that we might be able to use later on and not worry about it being replaced by something else. So we're going to go to variables and we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call this variable response because this variable is the user's response. And it's fine if we do it for this actor only. So I'm going to press create, and then we're going to set that response. So click the drop down for response to, we'll go back to sensing, whatever the user put in, which is stored under answer. So now we have this variable response that's set to whatever the user responded with. And then we're going to check to see if that response is the same, if it's equal to the right answer. And I want you to remember, if we go back to any of our digits here, like for example the hundreds place, or since we're talking about the tens, if we go to the tens place, remember we had this digit ID, and we checked to see when the stage came up with the target digit, just picked one randomly, if the digit ID is equal to that target digit, well then the program knows that that's going to be the red digit because it sets that digit red, and then it sets the answer value to whatever that digit is times whatever it needs to for that place value. So we're talking about the tens place. We just had to multiply this digit times 10 to get that value. And since this was our target digit, it's setting the answer to the value of that digit. So if we go back to our actor, we're going to need to check to see if it's equal. So once again, we're going to need, under controls, a conditional statement. And this time, rather than just using an if-then statement, we're going to use an if-then-else statement. Because either the condition is met, it's going to do one thing, or if the condition is not met, which is the else, it's going to do something else. So we need to check to see if the two things are equal. So that means we need to go to operators, and we need to get our equal operator here. And we're checking to see if the user's response, which we stored to a variable called response, is equal to the correct answer. And remember, the correct answer is what we saw down here, our answer value. So we want that variable that says answer value. And if it is correct, well, we want to at least let the user know that it is correct. So we can go to looks for this because we want to say something, and scroll down. So we have these speech bubbles, and we'll just take the one that says say hello for some amount of time. We can use this one here, and we just want to tell the user that he or she is correct. So we could just say correct. And if we wanted to, we could have something happen after that, but we'll get back to this in just a minute. So if this is true, if the user's response is the correct answer, this will say correct. But if it's not, then we're going to go to this else. So what's going to happen if it's not correct? Well, we need to let the user know that it's not correct. So we'll take this other bubble and we'll say incorrect. And we want to give our user a chance to try again. So we can tell the user, please try again. And I like that word please because if we don't use the word please, it's going to sound very harsh, especially coming from a computer screen, computer program. So please try again. Okay. And if the user is going to try again, we need to ask again. So we got to rebroadcast the same message. So if we go up to events, we are going to broadcast ask. And notice it's only going to broadcast ask if the user got it incorrect the first time, if the user's response was different than the answer. And if the user gets this correct, well, it could just be done. So I'm going to expand this out. We'll see what happens. So the value of the red digit, well, we know this 3 is in the ones place, the value of the 3 in the ones place is 3, but if the user typed in the wrong number, like if the user put in 2, it says incorrect, please try again, and then it asks one more time, and then we could put 3, but then it says correct, and then it just kind of stops there. So what we could do is we could kind of circle back around, and we could give the user another number. And how do we do that? Well, if we go back to stage, on the stage is where we have everything set up to get all of these doing what they're supposed to do in order to get that number up here. So we need to reset the target digit, which is the first thing that we have on here. So what we should do, if we're going to get the user another number, we got to kind of separate all this stuff out. And I think we can take our broadcast out. We can move our set font size up to the top. We could take our set target digit, connect it to these broadcast messages, but we could actually use another message to trigger all this stuff we need to reset the number. So let's broadcast. So under events, we'll create a new message, and we'll just call it something like go. And then we're going to take our receive. So when I receive, and we'll actually put it down here, when I receive go. Oops. And we'll just select it from the drop down, sorry. And when I receive go, then it's going to reset the target digit, and it's going to broadcast and then ask. So if we go back to our actor, if the user gets the thing correct, then we can broadcast that message go that we just created, and that should reset everything. So let's go back to our window here, hit the play button. So now we have 340 and 58 hundredths. We have a 4 in the tens place. So 4 in the tens place has a value of 40. So we'll type in 40 to get the correct answer. Press OK. It says correct. And as you can see, now we have a different number, and we have an 8 in the hundredths place. So an 8 in the hundredths place is worth 8 hundredths, or you can say 0.08, because we have an 8 in the hundredths place, and we always name the decimal by the last value that we see, the last digit. So we have 8 hundredths, and there we are. So at this point, our program is functional. We have everything set up so that the user will know if he or she is correct or incorrect. But more could be done. There could be more functionality added to make this more interesting. There could be maybe some kind of point system. There could be levels. There could be different backdrops for the stage. You could go back and you could make the actor more interesting, changing the actor, maybe even adding some animation. The possibilities are really endless, but I'm going to leave that to you. Just don't forget to save.